Right, we have a small section tonight that's a bit different. But first, I've just been reading through the chat, and oh my God, common sense is running rampant in this group. And one member who is clearly afflicted by it said this in the chat. How about Snap provide each family a plot with seeds to plant a garden? Really? Clearly that member is far too radical and needs an anti-common sense pill. Talking common sense? Oh my. Well, I never. Indeed. Positive actions is a short piece before we go into 3 long pieces, 2 exposés, and a very interesting last piece. The debate over what American children are taught in school has taken a new twist, with an increasingly vocal Virginia parents group fighting to have more influence over school boards. And it aims to set a blueprint for the whole country. Loudoun County in Virginia is not the most obvious site for a flashpoint to erupt that could have repercussions across America. Of course, being close to the seat of power, Washington, D.C. No, it's not D.C., it's New York. It's a fairly affluent area with a median household income of $142,000. And since 2010, its population has risen by 34%, and crucially, 28% of residents are under 18. Now, many parents work in government and are adept at campaigning and organising, which has spawned the birth of a vocal and increasingly prominent organisation called Fight for Schools. And as the name suggests, it is a parents group that wants to have more say in what goes on in schools. Now, this was formed in April by just 8 people. And yet since it has been catapulted into the living rooms of millions of Americans with coverage on influential platforms such as Fox News, which kind of makes it a bit wary, but let's call it as it is. Now, the founders were spurred into action when made aware of a Facebook group called Anti-Racist Parents of Loudoun County. And a school board member had posted a message amongst the group encouraging others to confront parents who were opposed to the critical race theory being taught in local schools. And there was also a simultaneous debate about when to open up schools post-lockdown. Now, the Fight for Schools executive director, Ian Pryor, said these individuals in the Facebook group started listing over 60 parents they wanted to plot against. And there was a post on there that talked about infiltrating parents' groups, publicly exposing them, and even hacking their websites. All sounds like an agency tactic and program to me. Now, Fight for Schools is focused on several issues, but they revolve around a similar theme, and that is overreach that undermines parents' constitutional rights. And Pryor explains they refuse to hear any other side of the argument, and that's really one of the reasons we're seeing this toxicity that we are experiencing. And you have a group of individuals that are, in my opinion, extremely radical in their beliefs, which is fine. But what is not fine is that they refuse to accept that there is always another side of the ledger that needs to be heard as well. And the case of the Loudoun County, that other side of the ledger is a vast majority of people. And he said everyone is entitled to their opinion, but when you are a, quote, government actor, unquote, you have to hold yourself to a higher standard and also have to respect the laws and the people's constitutional rights. And what we've seen from our school board, but school boards all over really is that they just don't have a solid fundamental grasp of constitutional law or the constitutional guardrails that exist. They do not respect them, and they are more than willing to pass legislation that, quite frankly, is unconstitutional and does not reflect the will of the majority of their constituents. And he said, yet when people voice their concern or displeasure, they immediately go to, you're a bigot, racist, or fascist. And this is what we need to see from more people. People taking an active concern in all matters and stop allowing jackasses to run everything. And it's the only way to go to get the country back. The point is, we've allowed idiots to run the asylum unhindered because people were too lazy or content to let others run their lives for them, and that has to stop. And this is how change is made. You challenge the system on all levels. And it is about taking personal responsibility again for your lives, your family, and also your neighbours. So kudos to Fight for Schools for raising awareness, and I hope it encourages more people to stand up and fight a system that, quite frankly, has never worked for we the people. Oklahoma City is another one. Hundreds of people gathered at the state capitol on Saturday to protest mask and COVID vaccine mandates while fighting for their freedom to choose. And a line of people waited outside the Capitol while hundreds filled the rotunda chanting USA, singing America the Beautiful and reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh dear. Sadly, it is the belief in the USA is part of the problem here, because the US is nothing to do with America. And this is how they get away with it. And some also held signs saying no vaccine mandate, protect our freedom, and mandate medical freedom. And one of the rally goers said, I do not want to see us be mandated for masks or vaccines, because that is our right to choose what is best for us. And so that's why I'm here to support for freedom to choose. Another rally goer said, we appreciate that the vaccine was made, that it's offered to us for free, but I don't want to be forced to take it. Now, Daniel Narvaez, who was one of the speakers at the Oklahoma Freedom Rally event, said he thinks mandates are a way of communism, which is Zionism, taking over the nation. And it's more of a plandemic and a scam. He said. Now, many people in the large crowd that gathered inside the Capitol chanted, sang, and made their choice known while not wearing masks. Good stuff. And more needs to support it and spread it out further. People need platforms to feel safe, otherwise they just go along with the control system's narrative and requests. So kudos to them as well. Kudos to the Danish Parliament, who recently decided in Copenhagen that all corona measures should be ended from October the 1st. There will no longer be a mask requirement and the test regime will be abolished. The Danes will then no longer have to provide evidence of whether they are vaccinated or unvaccinated, or whether they have tested positive or negative.